40, 91, and 1. That is the New York Giants record since 2017. The last 8 years, the Giants have averaged just 5 wins per year. And in the month of September, over that same time period, they're 7-21, averaging less than 1 win per year in the month of the year. That is so pivotal to every single football team in every single football season. Every year since this team has basically started to scrape the bottom of the barrel, I've had one ask as a fan, one, to not let the season be over shortly after it starts. And this year needs to be different. Hardest schedule in the league, be damned. Be the New York Football Giants, because there's finally an identity back again that won this team 3 of their 4 Super Bowls. And they're hoping their first-round quarterback they drafted this year will eventually be the reason why they win their 5th. Similarly as to why they won their 4th. The buzzwords of energy and identity, they've shaped the offseason. It's injected optimism into a fan base that desperately needs it after demanding basically an entire regime change just a little over 8 months ago. But as the team has said, it's not about what's on paper. It doesn't matter if there's good energy. It needs to be followed by wins. Significant wins when it matters most. How you change the narrative, how you change the culture is by winning football games. And it starts this Sunday for the New York Football Giants in Landover, Maryland. We are back. And yes, we are back. It is Talkin' Giants, brought to you by SeatGeek, and the Giants are facing off against the Washington Commanders this Sunday as 6-point underdogs in Landover, Maryland. I hope you had a good offseason. I hope it wasn't too long. Hope it wasn't too short. Hope you had a good summer, because we're ready to rock and roll, and the Giants are going to do some different things this year. Whether it starts really bad and then there will be inevitably injecting a little bit of positivity and a little bit of life as Jackson Dart comes in for the first couple weeks. There's a rookie quarterback on the horizon. But even before then, and this is my hope and my wish as a fan this year, I hope that Russell Wilson and frankly, the rest of the roster heading into year 4 of Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll, hoping that the rest of this roster can breathe in some sort of optimism. And by the way, how you breathe in that optimism is by starting to win football games. We've talked about that hard schedule basically since the season ended last year. You're able to see who your opponents are. By the time the regular season wraps up, you're able to see who your opponents are. It's just a matter of when you play them. We've known that the Giants were going to have one of the hardest schedules in the NFL. It's what happens when you're playing the NFC North. It's what happens when the 49ers finished in last place in the NFC West. And that's what happens when basically you're almost playing any other division in the AFC besides the AFC South, but the Giants get the AFC West, a pretty tough division. But schedule be damned, man. Schedule be damned. They have an opportunity this Sunday to go to a place that they actually, you know what? They've played a little bit better in Landover, Maryland as the years have gone on. Better than they've played at home. Better than they've played at MetLife Stadium. They have more home field advantage in Washington over the last couple years than they've had playing in their own damn stadium. They played well there last year. They scored a couple touchdowns and they allowed 0 touchdowns, yet they still found a way to lose a football game. Hopefully the kicker situation is in a better spot. I mean, I didn't like seeing that Graham Gano was walking around during the media portion of practice, and so you always get PTSD of multiple times that Brian Daboll and his coaching staff have kind of botched the kicker situation and the overall kicker health. Hopefully Graham Gano is all right. I don't see why there's a reason why he wouldn't be. But let's talk about everything that you kind of need to know about Giants versus Washington. Let's start to change the narrative. Let's win some damn games. Love you, Mr. Brownstone. Let's talk about it. And of course, we start off with the Giants offense going up against the Commanders defense. This was Malik Neighbors' breakout game last year. 10 catches for 127 yards and a touchdown. The first matchup versus the Commanders last year, only 4 different targets. There were 3 wide receivers, 1 running back, 0 tight ends had even any targets. Only 2 ball carriers worth more than 2 carries as well for the New York Football Giants. I think they kind of have this sort of element of surprise on their side. We don't fully know what this offense is going to look like with Russ under center and also Mike Kafka back as play caller with this personnel. I could be wrong and off base, but think of what the 2022 personnel was like and what Kafka had to deal with as he was play caller. Saquon Barkley at running back, Daniel Jones at quarterback, Kenny Golladay at wide receiver, Darius Slayton at wide receiver, Richie James was in the slot. Eventually, Isaiah Hodgins comes in and helps save the passing offense towards the back end of the year. And then you have Mark Lewinsky and Evan Neal on the right side of the offensive line. That was brutal, just absolutely brutal. You don't win games on paper, like the team has said and like we said in that intro. But, man, this does kind of have to feel a little bit better than that. And the last time that we really saw Mike Kafka as the full-time play caller, it's when the Giants were in 2022 and they were way more of this run-heavy team, and they went a little bit more heavier on the personnel side because that was their identity, really play-action teams to death. Now, I still think with Russell Wilson, you should be running play action. We're going to talk a little bit about that in this preview, but I just think the personnel is better. And I know they won games in 2022, but I think that's because they kind of took people by surprise in how Brian Daboll, coming from Buffalo, and how Mike Kafka, coming from Kansas City, how they were going to run that offense. I'm excited for Mike Kafka to possibly get back to some of those roots of running with maybe a little bit more heavier personnel, maybe even utilizing, an H-back more. Daniel Bellinger in the backfield. Is Elijah Chapman going to be activated as a fullback? So I'm excited to see if Mike Kafka can get back as to getting a more identity running the ball. But let's talk about throwing the ball right now, because that's what we typically do first. Talk about quarterback, right? Dan Quinn's fronts are always aggressive. I think in the passing game, getting play action going early and testing that new look Commander secondary is the way to go. I think the Giants are going to want to make a statement early on, and even though it isn't necessarily the strength of Russell Wilson, attacking the middle of the field from the slot and tight/inline targets may work out. Here's a stat that you could talk about by the water cooler, and that's kind of like what I want to do. I kind of want to give you some stats and talking points that you can go into work on Friday or even when you're talking with your family and friends before the game. I kind of want to give you short little quick nuggets that you can be like, did you know that the Giants do this well? Or did you know that the Commanders don't do this well? And then you could sound smart in front of your friends and family. How you doing? The Commanders defense allowed the 4th highest EPA per pass against slot targets and the highest EPA per pass against tight or inline targets. This is where putting Malik Neighbors in the slot, putting him in motion, running pick plays to try and optimize yak over the middle of the field, which we did see during Malik Neighbors' 10-catch game during that first matchup. Now, I know it sounds great in theory, but even Wan'Dale being targeted down the field, we'll see how that works in the actual game. In practice and in theory, that sounds good. We'll see how it actually works out when you get more physical corners on him. That's why I would rather create different mismatches, putting different guys in the slot instead of having Wan'Dale be like the lead charge and the lead catalyst of that. This even includes Jalen Hyatt, putting him in the slot a little bit, but Malik Neighbors should go in the slot. Darius Slayton, even going back to 2022, spent 25% of his snaps in the slot. It doesn't need to be significant, and I'm not talking about removing Wan'Dale Robinson from the field entirely, but I think mixing and matching, if Dan Quinn's defense, if you can target the middle of the field, and if you can take advantage of targeting guys in the slot or even tight or in line, and there's efficiency to be had there as a Giants offense, you got to take advantage of it. I know they may want to go deep. I know Russ may want to go to the sideline, but I think you really got to try and take advantage of what the Commanders don't do well, and clearly they don't do that very well. Now, Washington allowed the 9th lowest explosive pass plays last year, so big plays, I think they're going to be tough to come by. But what the Giants did so well during the Commanders' last year in Landover, Maryland, is they had a really good ability to sustain drives. And overall, I do think this is a defense that you can stay on schedule against. They were 22nd in average time of possession per drive and plays per drive. Ultimately, they were 23rd in points per drive. That's where the defense basically lies in a lot of their defensive metrics. They're 21st to 23rd in a lot of different areas. Now, I think we got to talk about the elephant in the room. If Andrew Thomas is in the lineup and he's ready to go, that obviously makes me feel so much better about the offensive line. I'm also really keeping an eye on how he performs to begin with, even if he plays, because this ramp-up period hasn't even felt like a significant ramp-up period for him. Practice time-wise, Jordan Raanan came on the show this week and said that the plan initially for him was that he wanted to play, the team wanted him to play him in a preseason game, and obviously that never came to fruition, that never came to happen. So he was a limited participant in practice on Wednesday, the fully padded practice, which was significant. At least it seemed like it at the time. And then there was a planned off day on Thursday, which makes you feel not great. about his status and for Sunday. So if he's not in, that Commanders pass rush somehow looks a lot more dangerously because most notably, James Hudson just isn't very good. It's probably going to be James Hudson at left tackle and then Jermaine Illuminor at right tackle. Dorrance Armstrong and Von Miller headline the edge rushers. Dorrance Armstrong is a solid NFL player. Von Miller actually had one of the quickest get-off times in the NFL when he actually came back from injury. So despite Von Miller being older, he really did a nice job getting off at the snap. I think it was at like 0.69 seconds. Nice per pass rush snap, which is really, really fast. Frankie Louvu rushing the passer from the inside against JMS. Frankie Louvu's like he's like a chess piece, man. So versatile. He can drop back in coverage. He's good against the run, but also he's really, really good as a pass rusher too. One of my favorite players in the NFL. But I think Frankie Louvu rushing the passer from the inside against JMS, that scares me a little bit. Now, Dan Quinn loves to run stunts and twists up front. That's an area where I actually feel good about the Giants' O-line. I think overall they communicate well with each other. Carmen Brasillo's impact has been felt a ton there. But if Andrew Thomas is out, which right now, my favorite saying from this offseason to really get a take out of me is put a gun in my head. Is Andrew Thomas going to play this Sunday? I say no. This ramp-up period just hasn't felt significant enough. I think Wednesday's practice was his first practice in pads, and even there he was limited. And then Thursday taking off. We'll see Friday, and Saturday as more reports come and as the official injury report is put out. And unfortunately, there's only questionable now. There's no questionable, doubtful, and probable. I think they downgraded the terms. Forget it on the top of my head. I should remember that. But they definitely don't have, I think they don't have probable anymore. I think they have questionable and doubtful. So we'll see about Andrew Thomas. I don't think he's going to play. And then you have James Hudson in there, who I feel significantly worse about the Giants as a pass offense when James Hudson's in there. But I don't feel too horrible about them running the ball because they just may need to lean on that a little bit more. Let's talk about the Giants rushing offense at Washington last year because that was kind of their breakout game in the second game of the year when they played, and it kind of created this whole identity crisis for the Giants rushing offense early on because they ran a lot of duo in that Washington game, and then as the weeks have gone on, in 2024 they kind of went away from it, and then certain weeks they went back to it. We'll talk about it. 129 rushing yards. That was the second best total of the season last year that they had at Washington last year. They had 4 runs of 10-plus yards, all by Devin Singletary, and now that includes 1 fumble. Fullback Jakob Johnson was activated for this game, and it was out of 21 personnel with Jakob Johnson and Devin Singletary that they did have one of their runs of 10-plus yards, which makes me think, is there a possible Elijah Chapman activation coming? Now, Tyrone Tracy only got 1 rush attempt, and I think Daniel Jones had an additional 5. So Devin Singletary was really the only running back to get more than 1 carry on the Giants team. That obviously is going to look a lot different with Devin Singletary, Cam Scatterbo, and of course Tyrone Tracy being that number 1 running back. I feel good about the versatility of that running back room, much better than what I felt about the versatility of it last year. Now, the Commanders, they're most susceptible to runs outside the tackles. Ironically enough, so are the Giants. The Giants were around mid-pack last year at rushing outside the tackles efficiency-wise, but a lot of their success was between the tackles against the Commanders. So it's one of those things of, do you want to stick to what overall your strengths are, or do you want to try and attack the weaknesses of the Commanders? I would say they're going to probably stick to more in between the tackles running there. I don't know. Especially with Andrew Thomas out, do you really have the line that's going to run like outside zone and misdirection and all that kind of stuff? I'd rather them just stick to duo teams to death and move as an offensive line, which they can do well. I'd rather them almost stick to that. And most importantly, like I said, as we talk about running duo and running outside zone and what is going to be the type of concept that's going to work for the Giants, I think Mike Kafka is going to help bring back a central identity to the Giants' run game. And I think that's something that they were desperately missing last year and really over the last 2 years. Any game where they did run duo more than any other concept, they ran the ball well last year. And this is where sustaining drives will work out. If they can get any semblance of a run game going, and frankly, like I said, if Andrew Thomas is out and James Hudson is in, I become a lot more confident in their ability to run the ball than pass block, like I said. Knowing that you may want to get rid of the ball quick, I also wonder how Tyrone Tracy or Cam Scatterbo will be involved in the receiving game. I expect them to run the ball decently well with the overall hope that maybe they can rip off a big play here and there that flips field position and puts them in a position to put points on the board as well. So Russ's first game, don't take sacks. A lot of some of the things that we already know. Not taking sacks, not taking negative plays, sustaining drives. I don't know if this is going to be a game where Neighbors is going to rip a 40, 50-yarder. I mean, it would be sick. I think it could be optimizing yak. That's where you're going to see it. And that's where I think this Commanders defense could be susceptible. Not necessarily Russ throwing that moon ball, unless it's over the middle of the field. If you attack the middle of the field, if they're running cover 3 and you want to attack over the middle of the field, similar, think of Bo Collins. Think of that Bo Collins post route, and you have a safety that's sleeping, and there's a receiver that can get behind a safety like that. Then I think you can rip some of that stuff over the middle of the field. I just think stuff by the sideline is going to be harder to come. This Commanders secondary is a very, very new-look secondary, and Commanders fans are pretty excited about that. But if they can run some pick plays over the middle of the field, and that front is going to be aggressive, Dan Quinn, I think, is going to try and get Russell Wilson on the ground. I think he's going to bring a good amount of pressure. If they can get rid of the ball quick, and if they can optimize the yak over the middle of the field, that's how I think they can rip off some big plays, along with maybe even getting some big plays in the run game as well, runs of 10-plus yards, 20-plus yards. Malik Neighbors, what is pretty cool is Malik Neighbors, this isn't cool necessarily. Malik Neighbors didn't have a catch of 40-plus yards until December 29th last year against the Colts. If we can rip that Band-Aid off right away and he can get a 40-plus yard play against the Commanders and it helps change the game, or maybe even put 7 points on the board, that would be pretty damn cool. And that could be like, hey, this is more to the juice that Malik Neighbors had at LSU. There's more to come with that. So that's the Giants offense overall. Andrew Thomas is a big piece of it. Target, whether he plays, whether he doesn't. Target guys in the slot. Wan'Dale's going to be big in the slot, but I'm even looking to mix and match guys in the slot, including Jalen Hyatt. I think Jalen Hyatt, if he has a strength issue, I think it gets a lot better and a lot easier to navigate when he's in the slot. I think putting Darius Slayton in the slot, and even if that's where you want to try and attack deep with slot fades, I think you're going to have to get creative if you want to get explosives and take it. Hey, if Dan Quinn is going to bring man coverage blitzes, because I think that when he does bring pressure, it's typically a lot of man, when typically he may run zone. I think he does a good job of mixing and matching man and zone, but when he blitzes, it's typically in man coverage. So when guys are left in man coverage, Darius Slayton's got to win. Malik Neighbors has got to win. We know that they can do that. You got to take advantage of it. Russell Wilson's got to get rid of the ball. Do not take a shit ton of sacks. And James Hudson, do not suck. James Hudson has spent all summer trying to fight other Giants players because he's had a bad camp and he's kind of getting his ass kicked at times. Go and be a dirtbag to somebody else. Go and piss off Dorrance Armstrong. Go and piss off Von Miller. Get a flag, get a penalty, do something, and take that energy that you had all summer against your own team and channel it into somebody else. That would be pretty neat. That'd be pretty cool. Before we get to talking about Giants defense and the Commanders offense, which we know that Commanders offense pretty well, I got to talk to you about SeatGeek, because this game preview is brought to you by SeatGeek. The MLB playoff chase is on. Football season is around the corner. It's this Sunday, and with SeatGeek, the MLB's official ticket marketplace, your tickets are fully guaranteed and instantly fulfilled in your account after purchase. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app in the world. There are more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and so much more. Right now, you get tickets to baseball games. You can get tickets for next year's NBA and NHL games, and not to mention tons of concerts and other events. Come to some Giants games. Come hang out with me. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know if you're getting a good deal. Just look for those green dots, because green means good, and red, it means bad. You know we came through for you guys. You can use code GIANTS2025 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code GIANTS2025. Now, let's talk about this Commanders offense versus this Giants defense. There were two offenses in the NFL that scored on over 50% of their drives last year. The Lions, and believe it or not, it were those Washington Commanders. They do a lot of things well that the Giants don't necessarily defend all that well. They run outside the tackles very well. The Giants had a lot of trouble stopping runs outside last year. Their corners weren't very good at stopping the run. Cornerback 1 was Deonte Banks, and then cornerback 2, whether you're having that as Cordell Flott, Nick McLeod, obviously Drew Phillips is really good at stopping the run. Tyler Nubin came up and stopped the run really well, but just runs outside the tackles just did not favor the Giants last year. And I don't know if that's necessarily going to fully change this year. And Ben Solak, and shout out to Research Rick for bringing this back up again. Ben Solak, when he was at Washington Commanders camp, almost just said Redskins camp. When he was at Commanders camp, he had this observation. I think this is going to be pretty significant for the Giants come week one, because what I think the Commanders are going to try to do is I think they're going to try and run outside the tackles again, and I think they're going to try and get some sort of misdirection and get eye candy going to confuse the Giants linebackers, which I think they could be pretty susceptible to getting confused, getting their feet stuck in the mud, and getting stuck behind blockers. And Cliff Kingsbury, if there's one thing that he's really good at, it's screen game. We're going to talk about the screens, and then also designing a really damn good, exciting run game for his teams. I don't think this Washington offensive line is necessarily kick ass, especially last year. They made upgrades in adding Laramie Tunsil. They made upgrades in drafting Josh Connolly, who I think is going to start for them as well. They're kicking Brandon Coleman to the inside. They have an injury to Sam Cosmi, who's starting the year on IR, which is big for the interior. Take advantage of that. But this Commanders offensive line should be better. Just a matter of how much better. But I think Cliff Kingsbury did a very, very good job of scheming past not having great offensive linemen. And also, they're trading Brian Robinson away, who I never viewed as like this really good running back. Remember, he had a 40-yard run against the Giants last year in this game, in this week 2 game. And that was like the longest run of his multi-year career up at that point, which is kind of crazy. So they traded away Brian Robinson. So now they kind of just have a mosh posh of running backs in that running back room on that depth chart. And I think what Cliff Kingsbury is going to do is he's going to try and create some kind of eye candy and different things to try and elevate the offensive line and then also elevate the kind of lackluster running back room that they have. And one thing that I saw, and I'm going to read exactly from Ben Solak when he was at Commanders camp, spinner handoffs, a favorite of the Dolphins and Packers last season. Spinner plays feature the quarterback handing the ball off of the gun while spinning in the backfield. Barred from single wing and wing T offenses, the spin allows the quarterback to bluff one handoff but execute another and can disorient opposing linebackers while dressed with more backfield eye candy. The Commanders want to have a disorienting run game, as disorienting a running game as possible without an elite backfield, yet with a couple of tricky movable players like Deebo Samuel, who will be taking carries in the backfield as well, Austin Eckler. They're going to benefit from a more non-traditional handoff game that makes their jet motions and screens all the more dangerous. And the most important part, having a quarterback who is also unlocked by read options and shifting backfields with this smooth ball handling and a possible quickness. Jaden Daniels is going to shine even brighter with these nifty backfield shenanigans, forcing hesitations from unblocked defenders. So it may even be by design where, if Drew Phillips, who had a sack last year, by the way, Drew Phillips is going to be coming in on a nickel blitz, and he's coming in unblocked. He's going to have to make a choice. Do you go after Jaden Daniels? Do you go after the running back? There's a lot of different ways that the Commanders' offense can kill you, and I don't necessarily think I think Cliff Kingsbury's good, like I said, because the way that he can run the ball, the way that he designs the run game, but I do think it starts with Jaden Daniels and his ability to kind of be so damn good. And by the time the Giants played him in week 2, he was very screen heavy, and that's kind of how the Giants lost at certain points of that game, is that they just got killed with screens. And the Commanders aren't going to be afraid to even run them on, let's say, a 3rd and long. Here's a next-gen stat for you. The Giants surrendered 22 explosive plays across 103 instances of their opponent having 3rd and long, 7+ last season. 22 explosive plays allowed when they were in 3rd and 7 or longer. That was the 3rd highest rate in the NFL. Of those 22 explosive plays, 6 came of them across their 2 meetings with the Commanders last year. Jaden Daniels completed 4 of 8 passes on 3rd and long against the Giants for 88 yards, including 74 yards that were gained after the catch. So it's not Jaden Daniels airing it out when the Giants had 3rd and long. It was so many of those damn screens where it was so infuriating of the Giants doing exactly what they need to do, of getting a team in the 3rd and long, because that is what the Giants have to do this year. That's priority number 1 for this Giants defense, is how can we get teams into 3rd and long? And if we get teams into 3rd and long, that's when we're going to be able to pin our ears back, and that's when this pass rush can fully show off and showcase itself, and then that's how you're going to result in negative plays, or even the negative plays can, ideally even come before that, right? But getting a team into third and long so that pass rush, it's such a predictable down and distance. The team is doing one thing and one thing only, and they're only going to be throwing the ball, and odds are you would think they're going to have to throw it by the sticks, right? But just because the Giants get the Commanders into these third and long situations does not mean that they're going to have ample time to pin their ears back and get after the quarterback. Daniels and Kingsbury, they're going to get rid of the ball quick and turn what should be a position of strength for the Giants on a third and long into, frankly, it's a weakness by challenging them to rally around the ball and make tackles in the open field. A ton of Giants last year have missed tackles problems, including two of their linebackers. Bobby Okereke and Micah McFadden kind of had missed tackle issues last year. So the challenge for this Giants defense basically every week is how do you get teams into third and long, like I said, but then specifically, even for the Commanders, how aggressive do you want to be on third down, and how are you going to navigate third down against the Commanders? Now, the Giants had 4 sacks in their first matchup versus Jaden Daniels last year. They had 2 of Jason Pinnock, 1 by Drew Phillips, and 1 by Bobby Okereke. All of their sacks, Jaden Daniels broke containment in some sort of way. More interior linebacker blitzes coming. Do you have Abdul Carter lining up in the A-gap as a QB spy? Now, I want to talk about that. I think it's a good idea, and I think that's what the Giants should do and have Abdul Carter kind of in that A-gap. But it is not a QB spy that is just waiting for something to happen. I've seen a ton. In LSU, I was just at LSU and Clemson, and if you watch that game, LSU does a very, very good job with their linebackers. They have a player who's going to be going to the draft next year. He's like a former edge rusher. He kind of plays like that Isaiah Simmons star position as well. Whoever number 7 for them is on that defense, he's going to be like a first-round pick. They do such a good job at delayed pressure, delayed blitzes, and I almost want Abdul Carter to be lined up on the A-gap on third down, keeping an eye on Jaden Daniels, but then as soon as an opportunity opens, that's when you hit, that's when you blitz, that's when you come in and be aggressive and try and get Jaden Daniels on the ground. And if Jaden Daniels tries to break containment there, then Abdul Carter is coming from a distance where he's coming straight ahead instead of rounding the corner and then he's going around the arc, and Jaden Daniels can improvise that way. So almost like delayed pressure as a QB spy off-ball linebacker for Abdul Carter week 1. That's what I want, because I think if you're ultra conservative, like I thought at first, it's like, man, well, if you're super aggressive, Jaden Daniels is going to kill you, especially because Jaden Daniels, after he played the Giants last year, fully unlocked. Like, all right, we started seeing him throw deep last year. Like, it was that Bengals Monday Night Football game where him and Terry McLaurin connected on some really deep balls, and Jaden Daniels did a really nice job throwing the ball deep. It wasn't just screens and checkdowns. He evolved as the year went on while still having a really efficient running game behind him, while still running the ball himself, like while still being able to sustain and maintain drives and chug down the field. But he also found a way to really throw the ball deep down the field too. So there's a bunch of different ways that Jaden Daniels can kill you. But I almost, and it's like there's such an urge to say, well, I think they should just rush 4 and get home that way. Like, your pass rush is that good enough, right? Rookie Josh Connerly is going to be at right tackle. Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, Abdul Carter. Take advantage of that rookie, right? Seeing if it could be his first NFL game and seeing if you can, take advantage of that. But I don't know, man. Like, it kind of worked last year. They allowed a shit ton of yards. They allowed a shit ton of drives going into the end zone. And maybe it didn't work. Maybe because they stalled in the end zone and the Commanders had a lot of penalties. They shot themselves a lot in the foot last year. Maybe you could sit back and say, well, it didn't work. So maybe you want to be less aggressive. I think I lean on, I'd rather them be a little bit aggressive and simulate pressure, bringing in Javon Holland, bringing in Tyler Nubin on some of these blitzes and changing up different looks pre and post snap for Jaden Daniels to try and confuse him, and then also helping out your pass rush too. I'm so excited to see how they're going to unveil like Chauncey Golston, Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Abdul Carter. All these guys can be on the field at one time. How are you going to do that? So excited to see how that's going to work out. We're calling it the monster truck package. It's not the NASCAR package. The NASCAR package is Abdul Carter, Chauncey Golston as interior linemen, and then Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau. That's the NASCAR package. I'm calling it the monster truck package of Dexter Lawrence and Abdul Carter lined up on the inside, and then you have Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau on the edge. Or if you want the ultra monster truck package is Abdul Carter lining up as a stand-up pass rusher from the A-gap, and then you have Chauncey, Dex, Burns, Thibodeau on the defensive line themselves. I mean, it's getting fired up and getting excited just thinking of all the variations you can do, like just plug and play guys like you're in Madden. Getting excited just thinking about it, and then I can only imagine how excited they've been in the coaches' room in that meeting, trying to put together some different variations and different looks and kind of licking their chops about what they can do and what they can accomplish on the defensive side of the ball with that pass rush, right? But you got to get the quarterback down on the ground, and you got to get home. And also, you got to put yourself in a third and long situation, but also understand that this will be a team that if it's 3rd and 12, they don't care. They will call for a screen, and they will get rid of the ball quick, and they will challenge your defense. They will challenge your defenders to rally to the football. They will ask Cordell Flott to make an open field tackle. They will ask Deonte Banks to make an open field tackle. They will ask Micah. They will say, hey, Micah McFadden and Bobby Okereke, you got to read this shit. You got to get out there and you got to make a tackle, which last year they struggled in this same exact matchup with that same shit. 3rd and 7+, and Jaden Daniels has 4 plays of 20+ yards against the Giants. Brutal, man. Can't have that again. So just because the Giants get to a 3rd and long doesn't, we won. We did our job. The Commanders are still going to try and beat you in multiple different ways too. And how can you stop the run? How can you stop the eye candy and things that I talked about a little bit earlier too? Something that we got to talk about too, before I keep going, kind of have like a new announcement. I'm going to talk about Terry McLaurin next, but I kind of have a new announcement. Nike is working with Talkin' Giants and John Boy Media this year. So I do want to give a quick shout out to Nike. We have an awesome new partnership with them. So if you actually go check out our affiliate link in the description below to shop some amazing Nike gear. So if you check that link, we're like an affiliate of Nike, and you can even get some like Giants merch. You know, obviously Nike is partnered with the NFL and all that kind of stuff. So if you click the link below, you can shop some amazing Nike gear. So thanks to Nike, and we're working with them this year. Appreciate them. All right, now let's talk about Terry McLaurin, because, man, he's had a lot of success against the Giants in his career. The most catches, yards, and touchdowns Terry McLaurin has in his career against any team is against the Giants. 69 catches, 824 yards, 5 touchdowns in 11 games. On a 17-game pace, that's 107 catches, 1,273 yards, and 8 touchdowns. That's certainly catches-wise, that's really and yards. It's a career year for Terry McLaurin. Who will be cornerback 2 is also the main question. Is it going to be Deonte Banks and Cordell Flott? Giants are still listing Deonte Banks / Cordell Flott as CB2, and I don't think that's a cop-out. I actually think those guys are going to rotate in and out with each other. I think Terry McLaurin has really cooked Deonte Banks, and I think Terry McLaurin is kind of an artist at the line with quick moves and winning at the release, and that's where Deonte Banks struggles. So I'm hoping a little bit more for Cordell Flott. And also a question, too. Talked about this in a previous episode. Will Paulson Adebo only line up on one side of the field? Paulson Adebo's snap percentage, outside cornerback, slot cornerback, plus the box, when you want to talk about left to right? Paulson Adebo played all 9 of his preseason snaps as the left outside cornerback, and historically throughout his career with the Saints, he has really only lined up as the left outside cornerback. It's kind of strange and so unusual, and I don't understand why that happened, and kind of hoping, like, the expectation for Paulson Adebo was to kind of follow wide receiver ones. The whole point of having Paulson Adebo and also, like, why is Deonte Banks in this position battle is that we don't want any of these guys covering wide receiver ones. Deonte Banks may even get a little bit better if he's not covering these really good wide receivers and if he's covering wide receiver 2s, but that's kind of eliminated if Paulson Adebo only lines up on one side of the football field, because then the answer for an opposing team is, okay, I'm just going to put my best wide receiver on your worst players. So, trends on New Orleans, Paulson Adebo lines up on the left side of the field, and also Paulson Adebo played all 9 of his preseason snaps as the left outside cornerback. Will that change this Sunday? I certainly hope so. So in the end, Jaden Daniels is dangerous. This Commanders offense is dangerous. I think he only got better as the year went on. His willingness to expand the field got better. The Commanders' offensive line got better. Laramie Tunsil is such a Huge add for them. I think he's still one of the league's best left tackles. And the fact that tackle was a huge question for them. And they went this offseason and they said, all right, well, let's add Laramie Tunsil. Again, one of the best tackles in the league. And they got Josh Connerly from Oregon, who did a pretty damn good job against Abdul Carter in college. And they got him at the back end of the first round. It's a pretty good offseason. Pretty good offseason for the Commanders offensively. They add Deebo Samuel, too, who I think could be a weapon, at least against the Giants, against the screens. And if he's going to be running the ball, and if they're like Deebo Samuel is still a weapon, I don't care if you think that he's fat or whatever. I think he's still a weapon, and I think these guys can take advantage of the Giants. I think it's a lot easier to talk about what this Giants defense can do against Commanders offense, since you kind of know what they're going to do, versus this Giants offense. Like I said, I think they have an advantage on their side of you don't really know what you're fully going to get. You know Brian Daboll's offense. You know what they did you know what Mike Kafka did in 2022 tendency-wise, but you haven't fully seen a Brian Daboll offense with a capable quarterback that can throw the ball down the field. You haven't seen that. And I think it will open up so much if teams even respect the ability, and you have to respect the ability of Russell Wilson to throw a really good deep ball. He still does that at an elite level, even if everything else that he does is not very good. He still throws a pretty good moon ball. That moon ball that stays up for 2.5 seconds or more, still really damn good at that. And if the Commanders respect that, and if they're going to go too high, and if they're going to, not give you one-on-one matchups, and if they're not going to give you an ability to throw the ball deep, then hopefully that will open up things underneath. Throw the slots, throw to those inline tight targets, and Russell Wilson also has been very, very good, at least as of last year, targeting guys from the slot. Very, very good EPA per pass-wise. So that's how I would attack it. That's how I would do it. All right, before we get to anything else, I want to talk about DraftKings, because this episode and this preview is sponsored by DraftKings. The next great touchdown is coming, and you can bet on it with the DraftKings Sportsbook in partnership with the DraftKings Sportsbook. Right now, new customers, you can bet just $5. You're going to get $300 instantly in bonus bets and $200 off YouTube's NFL Sunday Ticket using promo code JMFootball. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. New customers use our promo code JMFootball and bet $5 on any wager. Get $300 in bonus bets and $200 off in YouTube's NFL Sunday Ticket instantly. That's promo code JMFootball, all one word, only at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Now, I want to do something differently this year, because I will admit, I really did I liked the back end of our preview shows in the past, and that is something that I am going to miss. And at least as of right now, I'm doing this a little solo. I have an idea of something that I could do. I want to do a touchdown draft. Now, I have odds listed here, and I'm actually going to make producer Jeff, if you can put the odds on the screen as I'm kind of talking through them. I'm going to do a touchdown draft, and I am going to get points based off of my draft selections. And what I'm going to do, in the YouTube comments down below, you are going to draft a team based on the guys that I did not pick. Based on the guys that I did not pick, you are going to draft a team, and the team with the most likes, the comment with the most likes will be the listeners' represented picks from that week. So make sure you're going in the comments. Number one, you're leaving a comment of the team that you're drafting for touchdowns, for the touchdown draft. And then also make sure that you're liking comments if you like certain people's teams, or even like your own damn comment too, because you want to win and you want to represent the listeners of that week. So you're going to get points basically though. So let's just say if I take Jalen Lane, I'm going to get 400 points because he's plus 400. If I draft Terry McLaurin, who has the best odds, then I'm only going to get 130. So the goal is to draft guys that have a good chance at scoring a touchdown, but you also want the most points possible. So do I want to go pretty conservative, and do I want to just draft Malik Neighbors and get that out of the way? Or do I want to go more aggressive? Oh, they have Jaden Daniels on here, plus 170 for a rushing touchdown. These are non-passing touchdowns, by the way. So I think with my first pick, Malik Neighbors is going to score a touchdown. That just feels right? Or Terry McLaurin, who has 5 touchdowns in 11 games. Or Tyrone Tracy. I'm not going to draft Austin Eckler. I'm also not going to draft Jaden Daniels. I don't have on the top of my head. I don't think the Giants allow a lot of rushing touchdowns to quarterbacks. I don't think that happens a lot. My first pick, I'm just going to draft Malik Neighbors at plus 145. And then we'll get a little bit more unique there. So you cannot draft Malik Neighbors in the comments. You cannot draft Malik Neighbors since I just drafted him. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to go a little bit more niche, so I'm not just going to take all the top guys. I can't do that. I am going to draft, I think, Zach Ertz. I'm going to draft Zach Ertz, number 1 tight end for the Washington Commanders at plus 200. I think there's a good chance that the Giants could be selling out to stop the run inside the red zone. You can play action something. You can throw some eye candy in the backfield. Then Zach Ertz is going to be open for a touchdown. I'm drafting Zach Ertz. Boom, number 2. And I think my third pick, my final pick of the touchdown draft, you're going to leave a comment of 3 players. I think Cam Scatterbo at plus 320. I like those odds. Even if Cam Scatterbo, I don't know how much usage he's going to get. One of the things that I'm most excited about to see how the running back split percentage is all going to work out. I think Tyron Tracy's going to be the main back, but Cam Scatterbo being the goal line back, and I even think he's such a weapon inside the red zone, not only because of his power, but because of his receiving ability. So I think Cam Scatterbo at plus 320. Those are my picks. So to recap, Neighbors at plus 145, Zach Ertz at plus 200, and Cam Scatterbo at plus 320. If I draft any of those guys, if any of those guys score touchdowns out of the 3 guys that I drafted, I am going to get plus those points because those are their odds. The more unique you get, the more niche your touchdown selection is, and if your guy hits, then you get more points, and you will be beating me as the listeners. Leave a comment of 3 guys that you're going to be drafting in the touchdown draft that is not Malik Neighbors, Cam Scatterbo, or Zach Ertz. I also want to do spread picks because I was part of a show for many years that also did spread picks, and I like keeping track of how I do. So Cowboys and Eagles, I think are the Cowboys Eagles 8.5. That line just kept going up. Huh? I think the Eagles are going to, that's a lot though. I think the Cowboys could just throw their way into the game, an 8.5 game. I think the Eagles are going to cover the 8.5. I think it could be close, but I mean, even if the Eagles win by 10, they cover, right? So I'm going to go Eagles minus 8.5. Then Friday night, you have Chiefs at Chargers. I think the Chiefs do wind up covering the minus 3. I think the Chiefs are inevitable. The Chargers, man, Rashawn Slater's out for another year. Chargers, they didn't really have a tough defensive schedule last year. I'm going to go Chiefs minus 3. Bucks minus 1.5. Bucks Falcons. Bucks minus 1.5. I'm going to go Bucks minus 1.5. Bucks are one of my teams, man. I love Baker Mayfield. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I think Michael Penix is going to struggle a little bit, especially his accuracy throwing between 0 to 9 yards and in the quick game. I don't doubt that he could throw the ball deep down the field. So, Todd Bowles, if you're going to get home, then you got to make sure that if you're going to blitz, then you got to make sure that you get home and you put Michael Penix on the ground, because I think there is a chance that Michael Penix could really hurt the Bucs defense because that secondary is not very good, and obviously they have very good receivers. But if Michael Penix is indecisive with the ball, Todd Bowles can take advantage of a young quarterback, put the quarterback on the ground. I'm going Bucs minus 1.5. Bengals at Browns. Bengals minus 5.5. The NFL is trying to do all the favors in the world for the Cincinnati Bengals to get off to a fast start, since that's something that they have not been able to do. They're giving them another week 1 favorable matchup, even though that didn't go very well for them last year. But I think they are going to cover this 5.5 point spread. Give me Bengals minus 5.5. I just think they outscore the Cleveland Browns. Dolphins at Colts. The Dolphins are underdogs. I feel like this is my lock of the week, right? Dolphins plus 1.5. I understand the Colts are home, but Daniel Jones at the helm. Is Daniel Jones really a home favorite to start week 1 against, the Dolphins are a good team against bad teams, and I don't think the Colts are a very good team. So give me the Dolphins here. That's kind of like my lock. Panthers at Jags. Panthers plus 3.5. Jags are favorite by 3.5. Panthers cover, and they win. You watch. Jalen Coker, stand up. Cokehead, stand up. Raiders at Patriots. Patriots minus 3. Patriots are favored in a lot of their games this year. I'm going to go Raiders. I don't know if the Patriots are fully ready yet. I still think a lot of things are new for them, and hey, you could say the same thing about the Raiders, but I think they have the ultimate element of surprise on their side of, who knows what a Chip Kelly offense is going to look like in the NFL 10 years after he was in it. And I think Geno Smith is, you don't know who exactly they're going to use and how they're going to use Ashton Genty. How are they going to use Brock Bowers? They ran a very, very vanilla offense during the summer. I think the Raiders catch the the Patriots by surprise. Raiders +3. Cardinals at Saints. Cardinals -6.5. I think the Cardinals get this too. I think the Saints are just really, really going to struggle this year. Cardinals -6.5. I think they're going to beat up on them pretty good. Steelers at Jets. Steelers are favored by -2.5. I think I'm going to go with the Steelers. Losing AVT for the Jets sucks. Sucks very, very bad. I was really excited about the Jets, and then their roster's pretty top-heavy, more top-heavy than I thought. And all it took was one of the members of their offensive line going down, and they go from a kick-ass offensive line to a meh offensive line with young guys that need to prove something, especially in their tackles. So I think the Jets may struggle. I think they're really going to struggle to throw the ball. They need to run the ball 40 times a game and hope that sticks and works for them. But I think Aaron Rodgers -2.5. But would I be surprised if the Jets find a way to grit this one out? No, not at all. I am going to include the Giants and the Commanders in this. Giants, Commanders. Commanders -6. I think the Giants cover. I may even pick them to win. Titans at Broncos. Broncos -8.5. I think the Titans cover. I don't know if they win. That's a big spread. Me and Thanksgiving. Titans +8.5. I'm excited for the Titans. I'm excited for Cam Ward. I think they're building something good there for Cam Ward to succeed. Hope he isn't too overwhelmed by that Broncos defense. I can also really see that happening. That Broncos defense really overwhelming him, blitzing him, putting him on the ground and being like, oh shit, this is the NFL. But I still think the Titans cover. 49ers at Seahawks. Seahawks +2.5. 49ers are road favorites. I'm going to go with the 49ers. I think they're back. I think Robert Saleh's back. Nick Bosa's back. I'm excited about that front. I think they're fast, athletic. They can get back to what they were doing back in 2022 when Nick Bosa was Defensive Player of the Year. Give me the 49ers. Lions at Packers. The Packers are home favorites, -2.5. Man, this is tough. 4:30 game. CBS. Give me the Pack. I think they're going to win the NFC this year. I was saying that even before the Micah Parsons trade. Rams at Texans. Rams are 3-point favorites. What's going on with old man Stafford's back? That's my only question. Can you imagine if the Giants traded for him and we were like, you know all the jokes are circulating that Matthew Stafford's dead? It's like Avril Lavigne, all the Avril Lavigne. Avril Lavigne's actually not alive. She's like a fake person. Same thing is happening with Matthew Stafford right now. I don't know what's going on with his back. I hope he's healthy. I think the Rams could actually be pretty decent this year. Just get the Rams to December with Stafford healthy and then watch what happens because Stafford's numbers in December and January are nuts. But with that being said, Texans on the comeback. I love CJ Stroud this year. Give me the Texans +3. Ravens at Bills. We made it to Sunday night. Ravens -1.5. I love Lamar. Ravens are like my pseudo second favorite team in the NFL because I love Lamar Jackson. And then Monday Night Football, Vikings and Bears. I think Manning Castle will be on. Vikings, I'm going to go Vikings -1.5. I think J.J. McCarthy is going to look solid under Kevin McConnell because that's what Kevin McConnell and Justin Jefferson do. They help make quarterbacks look really good. And that's that. That's spread picks. I still want to do that this year. And if you hate me for it, I don't think this is such a unique idea. I want to keep doing spread picks. I want to keep track of how I do. Let me know what you agree with. Let me know what you disagree with. All right. Giants and Commanders. Giants win. Giants start the year 1-0. And then we're going to go into Dallas, and we're going to feel momentum based on their loss against the Eagles on Thursday night. And their roster's not that good anymore. So then we're going to feel like we could take advantage of them. Giants win. Giants win in Landover, Maryland this Sunday. They start 1-0. They don't score 30 points, though. 26-24. Last second field goal. It's 23-24. Graham Gano, last second field goal. Giants win 26-24. I will see you this Sunday afternoon for a reaction to whatever's going to go on because the Giants are going to win. The Giants are going to kick some ass, and we're going to feel pretty damn good about this football team, and we're going to get excited We're back in the New York groove, baby. Let's go Giants. I'll see you Sunday afternoon for a game reaction live stream on YouTube, Talking Giants. Subscribe. Let's get back to it. Appreciate everybody. See you Sunday.
It starts today. Let's go Giants! We woo!